Hello. Hello again. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Community Voices Playwriting Workshop on Facebook. This is our online presentation of this workshop, and it's produced by the Arts Engagement Department with the Old Globe in San Diego, California. This is our 6th workshop, and today we'll be exploring the use of monologues. This specific workshop could definitely stand entirely alone. So if you're a first-time watcher today, you are in a lot of luck. Monologues can absolutely be their own form of performative writing that's worth exploring and discussing individually. And hopefully by the end of this workshop, you'll be ready to write a really good one, whether you've been part of this class all along or not. But workshops 1 through 5 can all be found on our Community Voices event page if you'd like to catch up. And we've also just launched our Community Voices and Behind the Curtain YouTube playlists of all of the workshops that we're presenting on our Facebook page. They're now available on our YouTube channel. So if you'd like to share this entire workshop with somebody, if you've been enjoying it and following it along, those are now available independent of Facebook. So for your friends that don't like this social media medium, we've got you covered. So as always, I have the fabulous Mickey Vale and Gil Sotu here to support the workshop. Hello to you both and happy Thursday. I'm going to have a verbal check-in with both of you today, and it is inspired by our monologue workshop today. It is if you could share a story or a long talk with anyone at all on the planet, living or deceased, who would it be and what would you share in an abbreviated form? Because probably you could share a lot. So we're going to start with Gil. So let's see Gil pop on up.
I'm popped.
So give me your answer to that check-in today. Who would, living or dead, who would you like to share a long talk with?
Well, for me, it'd have to be the big JC. I'd want to talk to Jesus, and, you are asking about what I would share. But for me, when I hear that question, I think of someone that I admired, and I haven't had any big loss in my life. So I'd go to someone that I really admired. And for that, I would be more of a listener. I'd ask questions instead of more so telling them anything about my life, because I just want to soak in all that I could.
Wonderful. Gil's starting us off with the heavy hitters for his prompt.
That's what I do. That's what I do.
Yes, you do. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, Mickey, how about you? It's so great to see you today. Who is someone that you would like to share a long talk to?
Great to see you too. I would like to speak with my mother. Of course, she passed away in 2002, and I would like to talk about, I know she's been with me all this time, but I think sometimes I didn't recognize it. And so I feel like it would be a pretty hilarious conversation, just covering the ground, that all the things that have happened over those 18 years. And I'd have a lot of questions about when was she there giving me messages and I wasn't paying attention, and how she felt about that.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that, Mickey. Thank you both for always going so deep with me in this world of exploring the theater. It makes my job very easy when you connect to this in such a wonderful and very deep way. And I want to encourage you all at home to share with us who you might like to talk to today as well in the comments. It's nice to kind of have a check-in with yourself and who you're missing, and who, if you had the chance to, would you maybe share a monologue with, of whatever capacity, because you're missing this person. So once again, I have brought 2 actors in today's workshop to help us with our lesson on the performance front. And these are 2 return performing guests today. I have Valeria Vega and Jerry Flores back with me. Welcome. I want to welcome them both to the show. And I'd like to also check in with both of them with this question, starting with the lovely Valeria. Hi, Valeria. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Katie. Thank you for inviting me to this awesome workshop.
You're the sweetest. who would you like to share a long talk with today?
Well, hearing Nikki and definitely echoing with her, but in my case, it would have to be my dad. He passed 26 years ago. So he's missed a bunch of stuff in my life that I would like to recap with him, like the highlights and of course the shadows as well, and reaffirming that he's always here around. And I have a question, and it's a question that's always on my mind. And I would ask him if he is proud of me.
Oh, I know you pretty well, and I can say from my whole heart that he has to be. You're an incredible woman, and thank you so much for sharing that, again, very deep and touching check-in with us today. Our final, but definitely not the least of our wonderful guests today, is the always fabulous Jerry Flores. Thank you for joining us again, Jerry. I'd like to also turn this question over to you. Who would you like to share a long talk with today?
Hi, Katie. The first person that came to mind was my grandpa. He passed away about 5 years ago. He was living with us. He was 93 years old, so full of wisdom. And I would just love to talk to him about the state of the world right now. He always used to talk about how we are a global community, how we're all related, and just humanity in general. So I would love to talk to him about the world, what's going on in the world right now, and maybe get a little bit of wisdom from him.
Thank you so much. Everybody's sharing such beautifully deep and touching things today. And I realize this question is very deep. And I always appreciate folks' ability to go there with me, to also offer going there with all of you today. I'm putting myself out there a little bit and being vulnerable. And I'll share that today I might, inspired by other people's check-ins, I would also like to have a conversation with my deceased father, but it would be a very different conversation. We had a more of a tumultuous relationship. So it would be more of a challenging relationship where the majority of these beautiful guests today would have wonderful things to share and would want to connect. But I share that with you because there's lots of different reasons to communicate, and there's lots of different reasons to share a lot of different information. And in the real world, there's lots of reasons why we monologue with each other, and the same goes for plays. It's not always going to be the loving side of things. Sometimes it's because you've got something really profound that you need to confess or get off your chest or tell somebody off. So we're starting off strong, diving into the many facets of what a monologue can be, just from our check-in today. So we are going to move through another brief seated warm-up. I have gotten so much feedback specifically about this moment in the day. I continue to get the information that this is, for some people, the only time they're breathing deep and checking in with themselves. I'm happy to provide this outlet for you, but I also encourage you to take this further. Take some mindfulness into your week if you can, and I hope that it supports you in the current circumstances that we find ourselves in. But for today's seated warm up, I'm also going to ask that all of my guests and my co-teachers come back up today, and they're going to be below me, which is lots of fun. So I'm not alone for this physical warm up today. I'm not the only one moving through this and looking silly. Yay. So we are going to get into some really good mouth warm-ups today. We're kind of focusing on different parts of our upper body, but today we're going to focus on some mouth and a couple of light vocal warm-ups. And I'm going to encourage encourage all of you to try them at home as well. They are usually used by actors and performers of plays. So this would be a good opportunity to experience something new, especially if you've never been a part of that medium. But we actors love to warm up our voices and our mouths so that we can do the really beautiful words that playwrights write justice. So I'm going to share with you some of those exercises that you can follow along with. First, as always, let's go ahead and roll our shoulders back and see how straight of posture we can find right now without holding tension. Make sure your shoulders are dropped. And let's take one deep resetting breath together. Take a deep inhale in, hold it at the top, and a long exhale out. All right, let's do that again. One deep inhale in, maybe it's the longest inhale you've taken today. Hold it at the top, and a long exhale out. See how that, even just doing that, can reset your body. All right, now we're going to focus on our mouths today, and we're going to do some things that might not be very attractive. The first thing we're going to do is just practice some invisible chewing. If you like to make noises with it, go for it. If you hate this sound, we're not going to do it long, I promise. Ow. Good. That should help loosen up your jaw a little bit. Great. And now we're going to do 2 rounds of lion's breath, which is a yoga action. And it's a very attractive thing for all of us to be doing live on the internet. So go ahead and get those screenshot buttons ready for all of those blackmailers out there. Okay, so the way that lion's breath works, if you've never done it before, is that you start by scrunching up your face as small as you can, and then you kind of have an explosion with your mouth and your eyes, trying to make your face as wide as you can. So I'll do an example first, and you can all do it with me. So this is the scrunched up face. And then, all right, let's do it again. Or for the first time, scrunch up your face. And I think that's enough of that. And if you just watch me do that at home, I'm sure that was a little entertaining for you to watch me do that. So we're going to go ahead and move on to a couple of tongue twisters. So we're going to perform some monologues for you today. So we'd like to, like I said, be nice and warm for that language. You won't be able to hear my assistants below me, but they are going to mouth along, just because we have all learned together that trying to do things in unison on Zoom is like a horrific nightmare. So we're not going to put you through that. So you'll just hear me, and I want to encourage you all at home to repeat after me. So the first one is, and just make sure that you over-enunciate all of the words with your mouth while you go through this with me. Okay, the first one is red leather, yellow leather. Say it again. Red leather, yellow leather. Good. The next one is, you know you need unique New York. You know you need unique New York. Okay, and I have one more for you. I hope you're doing this at home. The last one is big black bugs bleed blue blood. Big black bugs bleed blue blood. All right, great. If you have any favorite tongue twisters at home that you'd like to share, go ahead and put them in the comments. And I encourage everybody at home to try as many as you'd like, because now you're going to be nice and warm if you ever need to monologue in your next Zoom meeting. We all need to do a monologue every now and then. So we're going to now transition to our writing warm-up for today, which is how we like to kind of warm up the other side of us. We like to work with our bodies, and now we're going to work with our minds a little bit. And the wonderful Mickey Vale is going to come up and lead us through our little writing prompt for today. So Mickey, come back on up and share with us what you'd like us to do today.
So for today's writing warm-up, I'd like you to write a 3-sentence letter to someone you really wish you could talk to. It could be anyone, living or deceased. How much can you say in just 3 sentences? And feel free to get as abstract as you like or be as direct as you like. However you choose to embody all the things you would like to say in 3 sentences. And while you work on that, we have our wonderful actors and Gil here to join me to share what we wrote. And I'll go first. I wrote to my mother, and I wrote, "Woo, it's been a wild, wild ride. I know you've been with me through every twist, turn, rise, and fall of this emotional roller coaster. Thank you for seeing me through it all." The end. Cool. And Valeria, would you like to share yours?
Sure, of course. I really took this opportunity in just trying to pick different people for this conversations that you put out there. So I picked Freddie Mercury. And it would go something like this. Why Galileo and not Darwin or Marx? Is an echo from your heart? And will you come back and dance with me all night?
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And Jerry, what did you write?
Okay, so I also wrote it to my grandpa. And it's, "You wouldn't believe it, though I guess maybe you would. I mean, you lived through a lot in your days, but I guess I wish you could see it. And selfishly, I guess I also wish that now more than ever you could give me another pep talk about a bright future."
Beautiful. Thank you. Nice. You could say so much in just three sentences. And Gil, what did you write?
Let me pop on up. So I was writing to Jesus. So this is what I would say. There is a world of lack inside of me, and I desperately want to not feel that way. I am told there's a universe of love inside of you, but it is often difficult to trust your translators. So I suppose what I am saying is, may I have your cell phone number?
Nice.
Because you know he got a good plan.
Right? Really good. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. And I encourage everyone at home to write your 3 sentences. And at the end, if you could just put them in the comments, and at the end of the show, we'll share them with our wonderful actors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey. Oh, that was wonderful. And we have such creative folks in our midst. And I know you all at home are creative as well. And I really love this exercise as a really great way to kind of warm ourselves up for diving into longer monologues, because it's a good opportunity to really see the power of brevity. Some of these pieces that were shared today were really impactful just on their own, because the writers had to be very resourceful and a little bit of time to say a lot. And sometimes less is more. And as we've been saying a lot throughout this workshop, we don't tend to speak in monologues. We tend to speak in light phrases. So when you are getting to a point where you are writing or sharing a monologue, it's because it's something so profoundly deep and impactful that it just has to be said. So it's very important to remember the value and the sacredness of the monologue, which is something that we cover and go through in our handout for today. I think that it was a little late in getting in the comments section for today, but it is there now. So if you can find our handout for today, great, it's there. It'll also be in the album of all of our handouts for Community Voices. But more importantly, if for whatever reason it's having some problems today, we're going to go over it today very extensively in today's workshop. So if for whatever reason you can't open it, no worries. We're going to guide you through exactly what you can do this week for this project. So we're going to open up that monologue handout. I'm so grateful to Mickey for sharing that little warm up today. And since she shared our warm up, I'm going to bring Gil back, who's going to go ahead and read through the instructions of this handout for you all today. Hey, Gil, you ready?
I am ready, Freddie.
All right.
Mercury. All right. So the instructions are: monologues are sacred speeches in plays that only should be given when a character must share something very important for the plot of the script and can't show it in action. Monologues are any bits of dialogue that are 3 or more sentences in length. Though they can be very powerful, they can take up a lot of time in your script. For example, a 1-page monologue can take up to 3 to 4 minutes for a person to perform. This is nearly half of your 10-minute play. So use this handout as an exercise in exploring the medium of a monologue, but only include it in your final play if it's incredibly helpful in telling of your story. So here's the prompt. You pick a character, either from the play that you are developing or a completely original one, and give them a deep purpose to share a monologue with someone from the world of your play or beyond. Answer the following questions about your monologue and then write one. So question number 1, who's talking? Give us a brief character description. Question number 2, who are they talking to? Pick their audience. It could be a close confidant, someone they need to confess something to, the literal audience as an aside, like they could be talking to themselves, or talking straight to the audience, whatever you choose. Number 3, why do they need to speak? Now, this is an important one. What is the purpose of this speech? Because if it has no purpose, then why is it even in your play? So try to understand what the real reason for what it is that they're trying to say. And we gave you some space. You can print it out and write it on the back and then type it up, send it to Katie, or share it with the people that you want to share your work with.
All right. Thank you so much, Gil, for reading that to us so sweetly. These questions will help you shape this monologue into something worthy of being a monologue, which is a really important thing to keep in mind. I have shaped this workshop so differently in the past, and I've placed it in different parts of this entire Community Voices offering because I've noticed something about it. As soon as I teach people how to utilize the device of monologues, they tend to kind of really rely on it to get through telling of their play. So I try to hold off on it as long as I can. And I try to, when I finally do decide to share the skill of developing a monologue with participants, I really try to caution them to be very weary about bringing it into their 10-minute play. It's an excellent skill to build because monologues are fabulous in fuller length pieces. But sometimes in a 10-minute play, they can really distract and take away that really important thing that you need in a 10-minute play, which is time. So if you can live without this in your play, I'm going to encourage you to, but we are still going to explore it and have a really great time. And if you do end up deciding to develop one for your 10-minute play, you will have made the choice based on all of these cautions that I'm giving you about them. Loving cautions, because I really do love monologues. And I have asked the entire team here today, including myself, because we're being vulnerable and open, and that really does lead to strong, fabulous writing and performances. I've asked everyone to personally share a favorite monologue with them that we're going to be examining using this handout and kind of discussing their weight and their strength and their value to really hopefully inspire you to develop one that is just as strong, or maybe decide to explore one for fun in this exercise and allow your play to be predominantly explored through the dialogue and action. Either outcome of today is fantastic. So I'm going to invite my actors to come back up today, my lovely actors. We're in for a treat. They've picked some fun monologues. All of us have picked some fun monologues, some strong monologues, if I do say so myself. And I'm very excited to share and discuss them with you. We're going to start with the wonderful Valeria Vega. Hello, Valeria. Welcome back. I just
Hi,
wanna ask-
Katie.
Hi, Katie. Hi. I just want to ask you a couple of questions before you get started, just as we are examining some questions before you write a monologue. We're going to talk about this monologue before it's performed. So, who is this, Valeria? Who is speaking in your monologue?
As you know, and I think by now everybody knows, I'm a hopeless romantic.
Oh.
So, of course, I picked a character from a wonderful story by Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice. And my character is Elizabeth Bennet, one of 5 daughters.
Great. That's a wonderful introduction to that. Thank you. And many people love Pride and Prejudice at home. So that's, like I said, a treat. And it is an incredible character to represent us today in monologues. Who is she speaking to in this performance?
She is speaking to the mysterious and wonderful, by the way, Mr. Darcy.
Ooh. Well, so for those at home who don't know Pride and Prejudice, who is Mr. Darcy in this world to Elizabeth?
Well, Mr. Darcy appears in a moment of Elizabeth's life that a turning point is happening in her age and what she wants and what she needs. So she meets him and they don't, like the start of it, it doesn't really happen with them. They don't get along very well at the beginning. Mr. Darcy seems to have, like most people, like a guard always to him, and especially a man of his time. He was very reserved in his feelings. So Elizabeth kind of caught the very wrong side of him. And they've been kind of like, trying to be friendly, but overcoming maybe some inner feelings that they have with each other.
Ooh.
So, it gets interesting. It's very interesting. But at this moment in the particular monologue that Elizabeth has with him, she's actually responding to the first marriage proposal that he gives to her.
Okay, let's hear it. You ready?
Yeah.
All right,
ready.
let's see this piece. Thank you so much, Valeria.
Sir, I appreciate the struggle you have been through, and I am very sorry to cause you pain. Believe me, it was unconsciously done. I'm sure that the feelings which, as you told me, have hindered your regard will help you in overcoming it. And I might as well inquire why, with so evident a design of insulting me, you choose to tell me that you like me against your will, against your judgment, and even against your duty as your sister's protector. And if I was uncivil, I have other provocations. Do you think I could have ever considered marrying the man who has ruined, perhaps forever, the happiness of my beloved sister? You arrogantly and unjustly maneuvered Mr. Bingley away from Jane. Can you deny it? Your matter of declaration merely spares me the concern I might have felt in refusing you. You could not have made the offer of your hand in any possible way that would have tempted me to accept it. From the beginning, sir, your manners impressed me as arrogant, conceited, and selfish. You are the last man in the world I could ever be prevailed upon to marry. Ta-da!
Woo! Brava. Thank you so much, Valeria. I'm going to ask you one more question about that fabulous monologue and for your beautiful performance today. And you certainly picked one of the most incredible writers to focus on for this, and she gave us a lot of really beautiful strength in this monologue. So why do you believe that this is a speech that's worth giving?
If we get to the point of the story, like kind of towards the middle, we see the evolvement of all of the characters, right? But we see Elizabeth all the time being, even a woman in that era, in that moment, very, spoken with what she thinks, what she wants, and what she needs. So it really, this little piece really still makes her true to herself in the response, even in a way that it would be considered the best moment in her life, in accepting marrying this perfect man in that world, right? But she pulled, and even she always maintained her true self. And even though we maybe not know the story, but this little thing that she explains to him really tells us a lot of what has been going on, and also talks about other characters that are very important in also the story.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that examination, and thank you even more for your performance. It's always a pleasure, Valeria, to see you perform. And I agree. I mean, this is a monologue that is triggered by an incredible event. You know, you don't expect a monologue after someone asks you to marry them, but if you're getting one, it's because there's something really important to say. And a lot of times maybe it's connected to the word no, which in this case it was. And yes, in terms of the writing specifically, this was an opportunity for Austen to once again underline the intention and the motivation and the personality of this incredible woman of her time, and give life to something that most people would be, like you said, really excited about. She's using this as an opportunity to show in great detail who Elizabeth really is, in a very strong and very entertaining and surprising monologue. So we're going to jump to our next one so we can continue to show you what might be worthwhile in exploring in monologue. And I'm going to bring Jerry, the wonderful Mr. Flores, back up. And I'm going to talk with him a little bit, just like I did with Valeria, about the piece that he chose. So Jerry, who is this in your monologue that is speaking?
So it's really funny because I think Valeria and I are like spiritually connected, and because we're hopeless romantics and we're both from Tijuana. Mine is from I Love You Because, which is based on Pride and Prejudice. And so my character is like this gender bend version of Elizabeth in modern day.
We didn't plan that.
Nope. But it's fun.
Amazing things happen on Facebook Live. That's so cool. So who is this version of this character of Austen? Who is Austen Bennet in this world?
Yes, so Austen Bennet is a hopeless romantic. He writes Hallmark greeting cards for a living, and he just got dumped by his girlfriend of 5 years, and so he's devastated. Ooh. And he's trying desperately to win her back. But along the way, he meets this girl who's the complete opposite of him, and called Marcy. And she starts helping him win back Catherine, but eventually Austen falls in love with Marcy.
So
and Marcy is
Darcy.
Darcy.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
that's who he's speaking to in this monologue.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see this gender bending Pride and Prejudice
right.
performance. Take it away, Jerry. Thank you so much.
Marcy, last night was absolutely amazing. And I don't know how you feel about it, or about the last 2 months for that matter, but for me, it's been amazing. I said amazing twice. Listen, at first, you weren't at all anybody that I would even remotely want to spend a little bit of time with. But after you started helping me win back Catherine, something happened, and somewhere in between the poem lessons and the arguing and everything else, I lost control. And I don't normally like to lose control, but I did, and I didn't even realize it until last night. And last night was amazing. And Marcy, I guess what I'm trying to say is I brought you daisies.
Yay! I love watching actors act, even on this medium. For some reason, it's very entertaining to see just their faces. I mean, there's TV. That's not a surprising thing, but still, it's very entertaining.
They're acting on the screen. What?
Entertaining on my world to be watching on a Zoom while all of this business is happening. I hope you're enjoying it as well. So, Jerry, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Valeria, which is, and obviously we can all guess, but why do you think this is a monologue that is important enough to be in a play?
Yes. Well, I mean, at this point, the character is the end of Act 1, actually, and he's really, it's like a turning point for him, because it's the moment he realizes that he is in love with this girl who at first he completely didn't even think it could happen, and he's also changed because of her, because he says many, like, he's normally very eloquent, like, with his words, and now he's like repeating words, and he's just stumbling, and he's allowing himself to embrace that side of him, and that's part of why he just fell in love with her. And so it's like really the moment that he's confessing his love to her, and about to find.
I think you might be breaking up a little bit. At least you are on my end. So we'll just go back to me for this second. Thank you, Jerry, for that. And we were hearing the beginning of your answer. And yes, absolutely. This is what I would call a confession monologue. That's a very common type of monologue, to be quite honest. And usually it comes up when someone has to tell somebody, has to confess somebody something. Yes, that could be a confession of love, a huge and very important reason to dig into a monologue. And that could also be a confession of something else, a confession of murder, a confession of your evil plan. And I'm trying to be on the other side of love, but it could be the confession of a huge plot twist that nobody else even would think of in this time. But confession monologues are usually very strong, and they come from that very guttural need to get something off your chest, which we've all kind of been in that position before. I would say that Valeria's monologue was a little bit of a confession monologue, but more of a telling off monologue, which there's a lot of beautiful telling off monologues in the Jane Austen world. But Elizabeth is pretty good at those as well. But that's another really great reason to include a monologue, a character that needs to just give it to somebody with their words. So we're going to go ahead and move to our next monologues, which my teaching artists are going to share. Like I mentioned, we all picked our favorite monologue today to explore and discuss for all of you. So next up is the wonderful Gil Sotu. So Gil, come on back to the screen. Gil, who is speaking in your monologue today?
So who's speaking in my monologue is a woman named Cynthia.
Okay.
That's all we really know about her before the monologue. And she is addressing the man on his knee with a little box in his hand.
All right. I think you've set us up really well. Let's go ahead and hear this monologue.
Okay. So I'm playing Cynthia. Don't do it. Don't open that little box one more crack. Don't ask me to marry you. Shh, shh, shh. Don't say another word. Just listen. I can't let you do this to me. I mean, before I met you, I used to be such a witch. I mean, seriously, everyone at work thought I was a huge witch. No one actually liked me. Those people I introduced you to as my friends, they're not my friends. They're scared of me, or they were before I met you. Before you, I never said please or thank you at restaurants. I never smiled or laughed at anyone's jokes but mine. I never used to tip more than 10%. I was quick with insults. I always had a cruel word. I was cold, cross, crass, and falsely compassionate. But since being with you, I begin to feel all warm inside, fuzzy. I find myself wanting to stroll in the park and whistle. I have these thoughts, these urges to donate to charities and help out in soup kitchens and hug people. Since being with you, I've given nearly $10 to a homeless man, helped 3 old ladies cross the street, and I bought one of my so-called friends a present at full price. And I knew it was something that she would like. Don't you see? Don't you see you've made me nice? And what really scares me is that you'll open that box and ask me to marry you, and I'll just nicely say yes. And then I'll be nice for life. I'll be singing Kumbaya for the rest of my days. I'll give back to the community, to the Salvation Army, to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and I'll do it anonymously. And then one day, years from now, I'll wake up and I'll have the horrible realization that I lived a good life and that I contribute. Please, for the love of God, put that box away. I mean, the planet already has millions of nice people. It doesn't need me too. I am a witch, and I want to say, I want to stay that way. Please stop. I'm asking you. No, I'm begging you. I'm getting down on my knees. Will you please not marry me?
Yay! We've got 2 turned down proposals today. We're keeping today really exciting. Ain't nobody gonna marry us.
Nobody.
So Gil, thank you so much for sharing that. Gil was like, maybe I should share a serious one too. And I was like, no, we need some comedy. We always need some comedy. And there are so many fabulous comedic monologues out there. So Gil, what about this monologue do you feel is important enough to include in a play?
What about this is important enough to include?
Yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot because it tells a whole story within this monologue. You get to know who this character is. You get to know what type of person her boyfriend is, just through the context of what she's saying without him even saying a word. And that's excellent writing because, you know, if let's say we started out with this, you would know what type of person their boyfriend is, and you don't have to go into a lot of exposition about him or anything, or even their relationship. So it's a great piece altogether as a solid telling of a story from beginning to end.
It definitely is. It's very exciting. You also get the sensation that this is another moment where a character just really needs to kind of get everything off of their chest. You get the sensation that maybe they were worried that something like this was coming and they've been holding off expressing how they really feel about this person until it was too late, which again is a fabulous reason to give a monologue, to get it all out. What were you going to say, Gil?
Oh, and I was also going to say is I always like when scenes take an unexpected turn.
Yeah.
You know, so this is another good reason. Sometimes people, monologues are just given just to explain things, but this also changes the tone of the play, because you would imagine right before this it was kind of like a serious moment. He opened up the box, he has a little box, and then so if the writer set it up, then all this time you may have been thinking that they were having a great relationship because she was saying they had a great relationship, but now you see that having a great relationship is actually torture for her.
Yeah. And the device of a twist in a play is such a great thing to utilize, especially if you kind of are in this world of a 10-minute play where your audience doesn't get necessarily as much of a chance to get to know your characters as they may in a fuller length play. You can really skew expectations and really give the audience a lot of fun twists and turns and expectations or non-expectations of what might be happening with these characters or what they might be thinking. And it's so cool to give an audience this idea of somebody and then turn it on their head. And it also works really well because it's very human. Humans are wild. They're these wild cards of things that every now, they can be following the path of the straight and narrow, and then all of a sudden they can Walter White on you and go down another path. And that's why it can work in a play, especially in a short play where you're not going to give the audience a chance to challenge a character's intention if they're having a twist in it. It's just fact. It's just going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
So we're gonna jump into our next monologue, which of course is the fabulous Mickey. Absolutely saving the best for second to last. Which piece did you decide to share with us today? Who is speaking?
I chose a monologue from Isabella in Shakespeare's Measure for Measure.
Whoa! We are the Globe. We welcome Shakespeare into our homes whenever he is conjured. Welcome, Mr. Willie S. Who is Isabella in this world?
Isabella is a nun, and her brother Claudio has been imprisoned for having premarital relations, and she has gone to Angelo, who is the person who imprisoned her brother. She's gone to beg for him to release Claudio from prison, and in doing that, Angelo basically blackmails her and says in order for her brother to be released, she needs to sleep with him. And she's not trying to do that.
No.
So, yeah. So that's what this monologue is about. This is right after Angelo says that she has to sleep with him in order for her brother to get out of prison.
So she's speaking to Angelo in this?
No, I don't think she is speaking to Angelo in this.
Okay. Okay. Is this one of her asides?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yay, an aside.
Yay!
Okay. Whenever you're ready, Mickey, take it away.
Also, I'm not an actor, so I just want to put that out there first and foremost.
No need.
But I love this monologue. So here we go. To whom should I complain? Did I tell this, who would believe me? Oh, perilous mouths that bear in them one and the same tongue, either of condemnation or of proof, bidding the law make courtesy to their will, hooking both right and wrong to the appetite to follow as it draws. I'll to my brother, though he hath fallen by prompture of the blood, yet hath he in him such a mind of honor, that had he 20 heads to tender down on 20 bloody blocks, he'd yield them up before his sister should her body stoop to such abhorred pollution. Then Isabel live chaste, and brother die. More than our brother is our chastity. I'll tell him yet of Angelo's request, and fit his mind to death for his soul's rest.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
That's why he's our longest resident playwright. We love some William Shakespeare writing. So as most of you know, a lot of Shakespeare's writing are monologues. And so maybe the challenge of this workshop is, but the most beautiful writing in the world is mostly monologues. And my response to that is, yes, if you write as beautifully as William Shakespeare, by all means, write all the monologues in your play. And I'll look forward to reading them. But, you know, we're living in a different time now, and things are a little bit different. And we express ourselves a little bit differently than we did back in that time. So, Mickey, I want to ask that same question to you as well, which is, why do you feel like this speech among all of the speeches is worthy of being in this play?
It's a very powerful moment. Her brother's going to be put to death, and it shows how important her chastity is to her, that she chooses for her brother to, I mean, that's a weird way to say it, but she knows that the stakes are her brother will be put to death, and her chastity is so important that she's not going to go along with that.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times monologues are used as a device to show the audience exactly who a character is. And thank you for picking an aside, because it's another version of a monologue when a character is speaking directly to the audience. Sometimes they are completely alone. Sometimes they're in the middle of a scene and they seem to be able to have a sly little turn to the audience where they can communicate directly to them. This is not a sly situation. This is really her spilling her truth and her reality of this situation, and being, although throughout the play you think there is maybe a chance that this is a woman who would do anything for her brother, it's very important in this moment for Shakespeare to let his audiences know that no, she would not. And what happens because of this moment. And I agree, Mickey, this is an incredibly pivotal point of this play, because it really tells you about the struggle that is ahead. Thank you very much for sharing so much.
Thank you.
I am also going to share a monologue. I'm happy to, although it makes me a little nervous to share it with you, but we're being vulnerable and brave here in our writing workshop. And so many of you have participated in your 3-sentence monologues today to that person you'd like to talk to. So I'm going to be brave and share with you a monologue as well. So this is a piece from St. Joan by George Bernard Shaw. It's a monologue that I've loved to perform for different auditions, and I am going to be reading it today because I'm a little rusty. But to give you some of the background of this, Joan has just been sentenced to live out her days in prison, to die in prison, because she dressed up as a boy to fight in the military, because she felt that the voices of angels and God were specifically guiding her to do these specific things. And those things ended up putting her in prison. And she is currently speaking to her guard, because she wants to change her fate. She wants it to turn out a little differently. And we'll talk a little bit about what that is after I've performed it. Light your fire. Do you think I dread it as much as the life of a rat in a hole? My voices were right. Yes, they told me you were fools, and that I was not to listen to your fine words or trust your charity. You promised me my life, but you lied. You think that life is nothing but not being stone dead. It is not the bread and the water that I fear. I can live on bread. When have I asked for more? It is no hardship to drink water if the water be clean. Bread has no sorrow for me, and water no affliction, but to shut me from the light of the sky and the sight of the fields and the flowers, to chain my feet so that I can never again ride with the soldiers nor climb the hills, to make me breathe foul, damp darkness and keep from me everything that brings me back to the love of God, when your wickedness and foolishness tempt me to hate him. All this is worse than the furnace in the Bible that was heated 7 times. I could do without my war horse. I could drag about in a skirt. I could let the banners and the trumpets and the knights and the soldiers pass me and leave me behind as they leave the other women, if only I could still hear the wind in the trees. The larks in the sunshine and the blessed church bells that send my angel voices floating to me on the wind. But without these things, I cannot live. And by your wanting to take them away from me or from any human creature, I know that your counsel is of the devil and mine is of God. His ways are not your ways. His wills is that I go through the fire to his bosom, for I am his child, and you are not fit that I should live among you. That is my last word to you. Okay, that's it. End of monologue. It's very nerve-wracking performing for a camera alone in my room. I'm not that kind of gal, but I appreciate being able to share that with you. I was going to have a little discussion about this with everybody, but I'm just looking at the time and I'm noticing that we're having a lot of wonderful 3-line monologues popping up. So I'm going to invite my actors to stick around and maybe read a couple of these. And I'm just going to speak through that monologue a little quickly. That was the moment where she asked to be set on fire instead of being held in a cage. It's a very different context than some of these other pieces. We had some romance, and this is a very big drama. But I wanted to pick one of the biggest pieces I could, one of the most epic monologues I could, to really finalize and kind of underline this workshop today. That whatever you decide to dive into with your monologue, let it be worthy, let it be beautiful, let it be impactful and meaningful, and let it move your play forward in a gorgeous way. And if it doesn't do that for whatever reason, then don't use it. Utilize your dialogue and your action instead. And so for your homework this week, and this is a good final moment, if you have any questions that came up this week, if you'd like to ask them, go for it. But your homework for this week is this monologue handout. It might feel like, hey, but aren't we ready to move forward in our plays? I'm giving you a little bit of time to kind of dig into these first 3 pages before we move forward specifically on your script. So a monologue is a good opportunity to kind of check in, take stock, see what kind of things you might need to explore in that medium if you do need that medium. I would like to encourage you all to feel free to share wherever you are with your play with me before next Tuesday. I love utilizing them live on our digital platform. And you are welcome to email me anything, including the monologue prompt, directly at my email address, which is khairoff@theoldglobe.org. There it is. That's it. Write it down if you haven't, so you can email me because I want to read your stuff. All right. So now let's go into the comment section and see what there is. Okay. So Jerry, how about you pop up and you share with us the first two of these.
All right. Sorry about the later.
It's okay. We forgive you.
Okay. So the first one is, hey, in there. Time is growing short. It's about time you come out of hiding.
And that one, it says, was to their alter ego. That's pretty cool. All right, what's the second one?
Second one is, I miss our great laughs over glasses of box red wine on your indoor patio. How I long for another tender, warm hug from the mother I chose. Thank you for teaching me unconditional love and how to live full on. Which you did, even with the portable oxygen tank on your side.
Ooh, wow.
That's
wow.
Funny.
I just thank you all so much for going deep with us, for sharing with us. I was trying to get the comments to my actors, but it looks like I got a couple that haven't reached them yet. So I'm going to share some of these to you as well. Someone's shared a favorite tongue twister. That's really cool. I'm not going to do that because I think I would sound ridiculous, but it looks like a good one that I'll try later when I'm alone. Oh my gosh. So this one is, I want to talk to my 3 times great-grandmother, Maulda Clark. I'm sorry if I said that name incorrectly. I would like to find out how she kept her home and kept her family together when her husband was murdered by a mob in 1862. That's amazing. That's so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Here's another one. If I could speak to anyone living or dead, I would speak to 1, grandparents, 2, the amazing theater artist Lori Carlos, who I also know and loved working with her so much. 3, Freddie Mercury. We've got another fan of Freddie Mercury. 4, Lebanese film director Nadine Labaki, or Micah, or my landlord, for pity's sake. Hard to get a hold of when stuff is broken. I love it. Thank you for sharing. We got that one read. Oop, I got a question. So this will be our question for today, and then we'll wrap it up. This question is, I feel like I have a defined mannerism for my characters in mind, but it's hard to get onto the page. I thought that perhaps essentially spewing improv with me, I and myself as the different roles in my play could help. Do you have advice? Oh, you know, that's a really great question. If you have an idea of the way you want this character to be, the chances are you're probably already starting to kind of evolve that voice. It takes a little bit of time though. So whenever you have some things ready, send it to me. Say, hey, I'm that person that had this specific question on monologue day week 6, and I'll make sure that we read your piece out loud for you next week so that you can hear how it's landing. And we can also take a moment to kind of talk about how it sounds, what we think is happening, and you can if that's right on, then that means you are hitting your mark in evolving that character. If it's a little off or you think it's sounding a specific way, that's one of those things that it really helps to have actors reading for you. So I want to one more time encourage everybody in the audience, if you've got some pages that you've developed, this workshop moving forward is going to start really digging into those pages. Many of you have started to send me your work, and I've already gotten permission from you to share it, and we are going to start digging into that next Tuesday with more actors, and Gil and Mickey and us really digging in with you. We can't wait. So please, if you're following along and you're wondering if you're hitting the right mark with things, share. We will love to give you feedback with our actors, both live and directly into your email. So my email, once again, is kharoff@theoldglobe.org. Yeah, it's up there. There it is. All right. I can't wait to read your writing this week, your monologue handouts, or your 3 pages that we're going to just dive really into next Tuesday at 3:00. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Thanks for my teaching artists and my actors for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed our show, and I hope you have a really great weekend of creativity. Happy writing, everybody. We'll see you on Tuesday.